Here's something that I've been realizing and been having to sit with for the past couple of days is that and how this came about is that I was explaining to my coworker that I don't receive a lot of support from my family, and it's been this way for the past 14, almost 15 something years since my mother passed away. Coming up on, I think, the 15th year this month on the 20th, and that for the past 3 to 4, pretty much like the past 5 years or more, no, it's pretty much been for the past 15 years, but for the past 5 years or so, I've really seen how, since I've been on my spiritual journey, or whatever you want to call it, spiritual journey and journey of enlightenment, consciousness, or whatever, and just working on myself and healing myself and understanding where a lot of my trauma comes from, or just my limited belief in self, and the programming and conditioning that I have experienced from my family and the trauma that's been passed on to me as an individual, is the fact that I have a lack of support from my family. And we can say, yeah, because you're chosen, the ancestors chose you, you have a spiritual gift. It also stems from the fact that you don't practice their Christian religion, right? And so that also makes me an outcast on top of that. And so, something that me and her were talking about, me and my coworker were talking about earlier today, is how, with my dad specifically, and him being a a counselor, how he is not fully aware of, or doesn't maybe take accountability or responsibility for the fact that, as my only living parent, a lot of the conditioning or the programming or trauma that I experienced comes from him, because he was not active in my life very much as a kid. And even though at the age of 10 he did come around, he just wasn't there. And he's not extremely supportive. Like, I graduated from school in this past summer, and even though people knew in advance, they still told me, people in my family still told me, oh, we didn't know. And when I explained to them that I was hurt by that, they told me I was being too sensitive about the subject, and that I shouldn't be responding in the way that I should. And that was the argument. Also, me living in Texas and not being in the same state as them does not warrant me to ask for help from them, because I shouldn't be living in another state and then be calling back home, so to speak, and asking for help from them. They find that to be ridiculous. Also, be mindful of the fact that I'm also a single woman. I'm not in a relationship. I do not seek men for their money, right? I've been trying to create a business for myself and establish myself for a very long time, and I have not had the greatest experiences with that. And a lot of my support comes from people who come into my life most recently within these past few years as friends, and who are willing to help me because they do realize that you do not have that family support. And so, it's very much of a realization. It's very much my truth, regardless of what anybody else will say. Because I don't know how anyone doesn't look at this situation and doesn't see that, damn, it's intense. It's intense and saying this to my coworker, and I've said this to people. People know this, right? They're always like, what the fuck? Right? And it's just, that's my truth. Like, I don't have support. And it's also created in me a self-limiting belief within myself. Like, when it comes to just being, successful in areas of my life, like that support that you tend to need to get you to another level in business and stuff like that is not there. And when you don't have people who are willing to pour into you, no matter how much we know that this journey of self-love, enlightenment, and consciousness is about motivating and uplifting yourself, we also know that as human beings and as people, as a race of people, support is definitely something that is needed, right? You definitely need people that support you, that love you, that motivate you, that want the best for you, and that nurture you. Because when you don't have relationships around you like that, that will push you and push you in that drive to be ambitious and to motivate you, it's hard to be successful. It's hard to be successful in any aspect. And so there's just a very real realization that I'm having about myself, my situation, and just over these past few years, especially as we come up on the anniversary of my mother's transition, and just as I'm looking back on my experience since I've started this spiritual journey, that it is very much an awareness that I am born into a family of karmics. And people go, but you're such a light person, like you're of the light. And obviously, the fact that I am the one that my ancestors decided to say, hey, we're going to make you the person who changes things for our for our family and the next generations. It's a heavy crown to wear on my head. It is very heavy. It comes with a lot of scrutiny. It comes with a lot of judgment. It comes with a lot of lack of support and understanding, because I don't march to the beat of a very socially standard norm, if you will. And so it's really difficult, and I don't see how they don't see it. Like, I don't see how people don't look and assess the situation and go, bam, like, this is crazy. Like, how can we be some more supportive to you without just wanting something in return? And I know, and we live in a world and society where people want something. You help somebody out. If I send you money, I want it back, which is fine. But also at the same time, when do you just give people love, motivation, and support, and just moral, general support, and a check-in of like, hey, are you still alive, without it having to be an argument of who's doing what for them? You know what I mean? That's just always an uphill. That's just been the uphill battle, with family and the people who I used to have as friends, because they were in competition with me. Man, I don't know how. When, my material things that I've had sometimes didn't even equal up to what they've had, right? They have family support, moms, aunties, cousins, all of that. And it's just been me. And as of late, for the past 7 years, my daughter. And I still get treated like shit. And it's like, how do you... I think the disconnect for me in my mind is like, yeah, obviously, like, there's some type of power that I have on me in the spirit that I don't necessarily see, because I look at the world from a 3D perspective sometimes, and not always just in the spirit. And I'm spiritually gifted. I look at the 3D and I'm like, but you have X, Y, and Z. Why are you so intimidated or caught off guard or automatically have this resistance towards me when I'm not doing anything to you? Right? I'm motivating you like somebody would motivate me. I love you like I would want somebody to love me. I speak to you like I would want somebody to speak to me, but that shit is never given in return. Never. And if it is, it comes from somebody who I've just met. Nobody who knows me been knowing me since I came into this dimension, this frequency, this world, this lifetime, right? It always comes from somebody I just met a year ago, 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? 5 minutes ago. Somebody I can meet in the next 5 minutes will pour more into me than people that I've been knowing for pretty much my entire life. And that is a gift and a curse. You know what I'm saying? To constantly want support and love from people, who you've been knowing since you were a kid. And you just like, I just want you to see like I'm doing really well. And when you share good things with them, typically things happen. Delays start occurring and shifts happen, and it's very present that you're not able, that you shouldn't share these things with them, because once you do, it alters your reality. And that's because they're not happy for you, which ultimately has to do with themselves, because they're not happy about their particular situation, but they don't also understand the trials and tribulations that have come with me being in this position. I don't have a spouse. I don't have a partner. I don't have a best friend. I don't have a mentor. I don't have those things. This is me by myself, trial and error. And it's been lots of freaking me errors. Like, people say, oh shit, she be fucking up, but I don't have anybody to rely on. So I'm literally out here winging it. I don't have that. There are cousins, and they're not there, if that makes sense. And so it's just interesting. It's just been an interesting process. It's been really interesting. This whole shit has just been interesting, you know? I'm tired of just trying to feel like I have to prove myself or people please to get people's love and support. That shit is exhausting. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm gonna live in my truth, because it's my truth. Like, at the end of the day, if somebody want to have a conversation with me, like, I can stand on business. And at the end of the day, I can say this without being emotional. I can give facts in certain situations of the matter that we're speaking on without taking a dig at anybody's character. This is exactly how I've been treated. This is how they move, and their perceptions of whatever, when they don't understand certain things in its totality, because it hasn't been discussed, nor has anybody asked to be like, how can I help you or support you, or what areas are you struggling in? And even when those conversations are still had, nothing is done, because we've had those conversations several times, because I have a brother on my dad's side. We've had those conversations several times, and nothing ever changes. So nothing ever changes, because they see things this way, like how they would do it, how they would pursue something, how they would go after it. And then when I'm saying like, but I want to do things